Okay, I would say that I have been in the world of marketing, advertising, and branding for last 27 years. And healthcare marketing, branding, advertising is all that I have done. But very importantly, would like to get introduced as author of The Perfect Pill: 10 Steps to Build a Strong Healthcare Brand, and Amazon bestseller for almost 6 months. So
Hi, Gauri. Welcome. It's so nice to have you on my show, Jagged with Just Ravi, Conversations at the Edge with thought leaders from the marketing, branding, and the consumer world.
thank you. Thank you so much. And it's my honor and pleasure to be here. I've been enjoying your podcast. So, very happy to be here.
Gauri, there is a notion that healthcare brand promotion seems has to be rational in approach. That there has to be scientific evidence for the rational benefits being promised, because that is what consumers want. It has to be left brain based.
Yes, actually, health is so much about emotions, and somebody pushing it entirely into rational zone probably is not a good idea. Reason being, whether you like it or not, patients or even doctors treat it with lot of emotions and psychology. Like we always used to say that we don't go to a doctor and say that, "Hey, doctor, I'm not thinking well." The fact is, we say, "Hey, doctor, I'm not feeling well," and doctor next time would ask you, "How are you feeling now?" So there is so much of feeling associated with any disease, illness, or wellness. You can't keep feelings away, and if you try to do it anyway, it will only impact your brands negatively, because your customers are going to treat emotions as an integral part of this illness or wellness journey. So every marketing person has to be very aware of these emotions. I mean, frankly speaking, we always believe that there is no USP alone that's important in healthcare. That's equally important is unique feeling proposition. So your unique selling proposition might be there, but the feeling proposition has to be equally strong, and the entire offering of value has to be mix of your USP and UFP both together.
I
Feeling and
love
selling.
this. I love this UFP. Yeah,
UFP.
actually, this is so powerful, Gauri, because we always have a to-do list. I'm saying away from marketing, we should also have a to-feel list.
Yeah.
What do I want to experience out of this? Amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yes, actually, in these times when we are living world of machines and artificial intelligence, what we are completely missing out is the human touch and the human feelings and the entire feeling of even being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Pandemic has taught us it's perfectly fine to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
and that's what, like you very rightly said. Yeah, I should also have two feel list. You know, not only two do list.
Awesome. Okay. So, now, you use the term FMHG, fast moving health goods, and we have FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. And a lot of the times, when RX is trying to be OTC, it's, believing there's a belief that, you've got to follow similar principles that an FMCG does to become a brand. Because, yeah, I mean, there is a whole lot of rigor and learning curve there that you can learn from. But at the same time, the complexities of the regulations and, the changing formulations, also, along with the fact that it has to humanize itself, and be very, very responsible, because you're talking to a human being who's vulnerable, who has a health condition, and you are using that, but you cannot be exploitative or gimmicky. So it's a lot to deal with, and hence, people like you who understand pharma and understand branding and consumers, come to the picture, because there's a whole lot of balancing involved. Could you share some examples, Gauri, wherein you've done this with your clients and your teams, this balancing act, humanize the pharma brand and yet be very, very responsible?
Yeah, I mean, touch wood in pharma, luckily we have medical regulatory departments and they don't allow you to say certain things which are not backed up by science. So there the task is to make them from very rational and very scientific driven part to make them understand, look, there is human part to the entire healthcare. So that's the task there. Whereas when it comes to FMHG, which more into consumer domain, like maybe functional foods or even oils for that matter, then you have to kind of tell them, hey, look, I mean, you're going overboard. Just tone it down. Let this be supported by science. So this is the balancing act as a person who is dabbling into various sectors of healthcare brands. It needs to do. Having said that, there are a lot of differences between a typical FMCG brand and FMHG brand. FMCG brand probably is not, I wouldn't, I mean, it would be a bold statement to say that it is not always high involvement. But let me say it reversely, every FMHG brand is always high involvement. Because the consumer, when she goes out and she buys even oil or if she buys shampoo or anything else for her family, she is going to be very, very aware of it if it's going to have any kind of impact on her or her family's health. So, one is that she is going to go out and research, talk to influencers, talk to people who slightly are better understanding the health related aspects. And therefore, if somebody thinks that, oh, I'm going to just do a gimmick and I'm going to just say that it works, well, it doesn't, because she is going to definitely cross check it. And our Google Baba is always there. So if and there is so much of knowledge there. So if there's any gimmick there, she is going to see through it very, very quickly. For any other serious brand in healthcare which claims to have benefits, they have to understand that they have to take doctors along, because that expert and that influencer is very critical and very true for typical RX to OTC switches. Like in my career, I think I have kind of done 3 such RX to OTC switches, not done entirely, but from advertising side. So when Digene went RX to OTC, I was actively involved. Pediasure also went RX to OTC. So Calcium Sandoz also was RX brand till some time, and then it became RX to OTC. So what is very critical is taking doctors along, because in the end, patient cross checks everything with the doctor. And even once, if doctor shows disbelief, or if he thinks that he or she thinks that it's not a good brand, they are going to say it. And when they say it, the patient is going to leave that brand forever in her or his life. So it's very critical taking doctors along. And sometimes it so happens we assume that doctors know everything. Honestly speaking, information is exploding. It's impossible for doctors to keep a tab of what's happening on a daily basis. So if you, particularly if you have herbal, natural, Ayurvedic brands, do educate doctors, because they understanding it and advising patients on how much to take, when not to take, becomes important, though they are not prescribing it. So that's very fundamentally important part. Taking influencers along is, yeah. Some time back, I was working on health supplement and meant for teenagers, and they are the ones, probably who would use it after while they are gymming or post gym or whatever. Believe me, every supplement they take, they talk to their trainer. So that trainer becomes the influencer. If it's a Ayurvedic kind of thing, herbal Ayurvedic, there are always friends and people who have researched slightly more. So they become influencer. Just see Insta or somewhere, these dietitians or self-declared nutritionists or fitness experts, they are the ones who talk about it. So there is a good buzz that happens. It rarely happens. And I would, if somebody who has just gone, picked up the brand for the family, and I'm talking more of a housewife or the housemaker who makes some of these decisions. It's not as simple as that. She just heard about it and she just decided to pick it up. She's going to do her own research. And these influencers would come from different walks of life, depending on nature of that particular brand. But that step cannot be ignored. She is going to talk to somebody who understands slightly more about it.
Absolutely. So how important it is to understand, the category dynamics and the evolving dynamics for every healthcare brand and product. Now, Gauri, like we've been talking, health and wellness has been a booming sector since some years, but today with COVID, it is the sunshine sector. And no wonder every brand wants to bask in the glory. Every category, and the newest category, which is making this claim, is a shampoo. So immunity boosting and COVID protection claims by a shampoo by Vatika. And I would like to know your views, because so far, Gauri, the hair has not even been part of the entire conversation, and suddenly, an FMCG brand, maybe they have healthcare credentials, I'm not aware. They're saying that, use a shampoo that will have COVID protection claims. What do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly speaking, I don't know. Having a student of pharmacy and studied pharmacology in depth, I don't understand how a shampoo can build immunity. But if they have some evidence, they have to put it out, because I mean, come on, what are you trying to do? You're trying to make us believe something that is not so normal. Any fifth standard or sixth standard biology student would know this. So you have to put it out. Just because you are saying it, nobody's going to agree to it. And if there is no scientific evidence, just stay out of it. I mean, I'm sure people trust these shampoos and these oils a lot more without having such claims to make. So my very sincere advice will be out there and explain. Don't do this half-hearted job, because that either it will harm the society. If even somebody believes it does, the person is going to have this false sense of security, which is very wrong. And if it is there, if they are not believing, then put it out. Just be honest, because trust is fundamental to branding, and you can't take away trust.
Yeah. Gauri, we've been talking about placebo effect, and now in this, like you mentioned, the Google Baba, where everyone, and the trust deficit, you want to equip yourself with enough information even before meeting a doctor, or sometimes you just self-diagnose. You have some symptoms and you read up and you say, oh my God, I think I'm going to get this. So this whole nocebo effect, a negative belief impacting you, adversely, this is also happening when it comes to health. How do you think marketers can, decrease this? Because it's a powerful demon.
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, everyone as a healthcare marketer, you have to understand that there is going to be placebo, there's going to be nocebo effect. Now, what is placebo? Placebo when the effect is positive. Nocebo is when effect is negative. So starting from, formulating your brand, deciding your medicine's color, deciding your medicine's, overall packaging, you have to consider the psychology in medicine. And there is so much of work that has happened. In fact, placebo as a word is invented by medicinal industry, the doctors and the pharma industry. And it simply says that even if patient takes chalk powder, his BP may will go down by certain points, just because he thinks or she thinks that I have taken the medicine and it's going to help me. So that's the positive side of it. But with Google Baba around today, anytime we get any prescription, we want to go on the net and figure out, are there any side effects? And if we read about the side effects, we are going to experience them. So one is that, to get the placebo working for you, get the right kind of information out. Get what is honestly out there, and to avoid any nocebo effect, have again authentic information. Sometimes it so happens that just because what's available on the net is not really honest, authentically verified, there's a chance that you'll read about some side effects which are so rare. Then somebody should be talking that these are very rare, it doesn't happen often. Also, there should be a counseling kind of a part there, that don't worry, you will be taken care of. So that's how you avoid nocebo. And in case of placebo, you have so much more. Like I always, say that there is so much of research that has happened that, if you're taking anti-anxiety or antidepressant, the brown color tablet is going to make you feel that it's not going to work for you. The research says that the same thing is in yellow or in pink, it's going to have a positive effect on it. Now, it's not a rocket science for someone to change color from brown or from white to yellow or pink. It's very simple to do. So doing little bit of that, using these colors in communication, maybe on your website, maybe on something that you're, or on the packaging, your strip, all that is going to only positively add to it. So the marketing person has to be very aware of these things, be it a pain analgesic, painkiller, or maybe something antihypertensive, whatever is your brand, or simple Ayurvedic kadha chawanpraj. Be aware of these psychological, cultural beliefs and work in line with it and not against.
Okay, so Gauri, now we all know psychosomatic diseases. You know how you feel. A lot of alternative therapies are talking about the conversations you have with your own self, the thoughts you affirm, etc. Louis Hayes of the world. But when it comes to marketing, again, it is not reinforced that there is a placebo effect going to happen. You have to understand the consumer's human situation. And a simple thing about in the pandemic situation, if you look at how the behavioral change of wearing a mask had to be taken out, it could not succeed to that kind of a scale. And of course, there have been repercussions. So if you had to suggest, and I know you have written about it, which has been published, and became viral also, if you had to recommend 2-3 things that governments and organizations should take up to have this behavioral change willingly from people that is wearing a mask, what should they do about it?
Right. This is a very, very intense subject. A lot of times people think that, health is on everybody's mind. So health related behavior change has to be very natural. But having stayed in this sector for so long, even people with high sugar levels don't give up on sugar, or people who are supposed to be walking just for 20 minutes in the span of 24 hours, they don't even get up from their chair. So health related behavior is not as simple as you tell them and they do it. When we were actually working on AIDS campaign for Bill Gates Foundation and John Hopkins, we were actually taken through 15 days course in understanding the psychology behind everything that a person does, and then how, as a marketing person or a healthcare communicator, you should be able to package it in a manner that the behavioral change happens. So as simple as this mask wearing, like all of us spend, hours together wondering whether this mutant is going to be, good. This vaccine is going to work against this mutant, and then what medicines you should have. So much of discussion. But the simple thing is that wearing masks stops any virus or any mutant from spreading from a person to another person. So it's a short method, but people don't like it. There are multiple reasons. I mean, simple mask. When I wrote about it, I was so feeling looking outside that people not wearing mask, and I thought I should write about it. And thankfully, the Pioneer published this article. So the first thing, the psychological reason is that the mask equals to less in masculinity. So you will see all those leaders, be political or the leaders from various fields, they try to show that they're tough, nothing will happen to them. And to serve that image, they don't wear masks, because wearing mask equals to being vulnerable. So all yoga gurus or Ayurveda acharyas kind of people, they feel if they wear a mask in public spaces, the world is going to see them vulnerable. Now, there has to be this education going first and foremost to these leaders. You have followers. So seeing them wear mask itself would have changed a lot of things, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen at the right time, but we still have time. Another thing that I feel very strongly is that people don't like to be fearful. So we have fear of being fearful. So just to get that sense of confidence, we try to look at something that may not be rationally right. For example, some kadhas, or for example, some immunity boosting products. We feel suddenly, I don't have to be fearful. I'm taking this particular product or that product. Now, one must understand, and there where the advertising council has to come together and stop brands from saying this, because this false sense of security is going to help this virus mutate a lot more. because you may get symptoms or you may not, because 85% of us might remain asymptomatic. But just because you have this false sense of security, you will not wear masks, you will go in crowds, you will celebrate. So I very strongly feel that the people who are responsible for watching what is being put out in the public domain is responsible enough. So, Advertising Council. And the third thing I wrote, and I very strongly feel that all experts in communication have to come together and create public messages like we did when AIDS was such a big problem, and touch wood, our country did pretty well on that epidemic. But the point is here, you can't order people, because what we love the most is our freedom to eat whatever we like, our freedom to live our life the way we want. But we have to educate people, tell them in nice terms, and always give them options. Ordering doesn't help, options help. So if you don't like mask this way, then okay, fine. Then certain times, where you're at places where you don't have anyone around you, wear it around your neck, that's okay. But the minute another human being is in front of you, wear it properly. So giving options, or that's another thing. And very importantly, telling people how it helps others. People think that their health related decisions are only theirs, but it's not the case. When you talk about when we are talking about diabetes or AIDS, how the families affect. So in case of pandemic, how your family is going to affect, how your neighbor is going to get affected, how your near society. So always educating using these anchors help people change their irrational or illogical health related behaviors. Oh my God, what is that?
So this is rapid fire. Mom's best advice.
Success has many paths. So peer pressure, not worth it.
Your husband's most often used phrase.
Forget it. Why are you bothered? Just leave it.
What keeps you awake at night?
My children's security, maybe. Are they safe? Because, they are teenagers. They are not back home in time. So are they safe wherever they are?
One thing that nobody knows about you.
That I'm an introvert and I enjoy solitude.
Ah, okay. Favorite actress?
Kajol.
Favorite movie?
Three Idiots.
Your most inspiring people?
My two ex-bosses, I learned a lot from them and they always inspire me.
Okay, fine. Name one of them.
I'll name both of them. Ambi Parmeshwaran, and Mr. Sudarshan Jain. Both of them, I learned a lot and they inspire.
Okay. Now there are some words coming quickly. Whatever comes to your mind, say it. Success.
Elusive. Nothing like success.
Laughter.
Oh, I want more.
What's next?
Maybe a book. So everyone out there, all the marketing people, the advertising and people from branding world, please like, subscribe and keep watching every episode of Jagged with Just Ravi. I enjoy it and I really loved it. So
thank you so much, Gauri. Absolute pleasure. And I really want to see your next book quickly.
Wishing and praying for that.